everyone, my name is Samantha and I'm here at the RCC with Lisa McAllister. So first of all, I just want to say thank you again for meeting with me to talk about this important issue on elderly abuse. So just give me, go ahead and tell us what it is that you do here and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am the Education Programs Coordinator at the Rape Crisis Center, which means that I am in charge of reaching out to folks for presentations, both in the Clark County School District and for adult education as well. Previous to this, I was the court advocate here at Rape Crisis Center, and under that role, I was brought in on the federal grant that the state of Nevada received to train folks on elder abuse. So we are still training law enforcement, court folks, so DAs and judges, and victim advocates and people who work in the field with the elderly on understanding what elder abuse looks like and how to intervene in situations with elder abuse.
You're very knowledgeable about elderly abuse, and so that is the main reason why I'm here today, is to kind of pick your brain a little bit about the problem that we have with elderly abuse. So the first question I have for you is, who would you consider is the main perpetrators for sexually abusing the elderly? Like, who do you
It kind of depends on where the elder lives.
Okay.
So if they're living in their own home or in a private home, it's most likely to be a family member, or what happens a lot of times is that folks who are elderly lose a lot of family, and so they kind of are prey to people kind of adopting them and creating those close relationships. And so it's always a position of trust. It's not a stranger. It is somebody who has groomed them, either a family member or somebody who is considered a family member or close friend.
What percentage would you say of elders are actually sexually abused, and of that, do you see more female being abused or more male being abused?
We don't have good statistics on that because all sexual violence is very underreported, and elders even more so because of stigma and the tendency to not believe them. So they may report, but then they're not believed because they think that they're senile or have other health issues that make them not in touch with reality. When mandated reports come to Elder Protective Services sends a person to the location, and if the elder says, no, go away, leave me alone, Elder Protective Services has to leave them because they're adults, unless they have an indication that this person is not competent to make that decision for themselves.
Okay, so that's the loophole, is if they're not competent.
Right.
So if the person is an adult,
right,
and they're doing it to themselves, but they're mentally
if they're competent, then they have
there's nothing they can do.
They get to do that because they are the agent of their own person.
Okay.
But if there are indications that there's a competency issue, there are field tests that they will do for competency.
So of the elderly that are being physically abused, how many would you say are, I know you kind of already answered this, regular visitors? Do you see it more being, because I know with, when I was doing the RCC training with you guys here, they had said that child sexual abuse and stuff typically isn't, the man lurking in the corner. It's always someone who you know.
Yes.
So we're all afraid of, going to the park and all this stuff, but in reality, it's really the neighbor, the cousin, or the teacher. Would you consider that the same?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They have been groomed. They have
Okay.
been that trust relationship has been created over time. It's not like I meet you Tuesday, by Friday I'm abusing you. They are willing to, especially with elders, because they have so many assets, they will take their time and build that relationship and not expect anything for months and months and months until that person really trusts them. And a lot of times we'll let them come and live with them. There's lots of different ways. Sometimes they'll create a romantic relationship. Sometimes it's I'm your adopted grandchild.
Right.
I'm service to you. I will help you, look, your house is a mess, let me help you clean it up. And they will absolutely put in time and effort to help take care of that person until they know that that person is truly trusting of them.
And then
they take advantage.
So if you were to just meet an elderly person for the first time, like what would be like the signs that you would look for personally if they were being emotionally, physically abused?
I would definitely look at, well, who helps you?
Okay.
I mean, everybody needs help, and as you get older, you just don't bend and do things as so does anybody help you around the house? Does anybody help you with paying bills, getting to the doctor, things like that? Your meds, does anybody else have control of your meds? Do they pick up your prescriptions for you? How do you, I noticed you have kind of a limp. Do you ever use a cane?
Right.
Is somebody taking care of that for you? And just a conversation about who's watching out for them would probably lead to that. And in that case, if you're going to have that conversation with somebody, it's really helpful to have the resources. And so I always recommend to people that they call Elder Protective Services, because what they will do is they will case manage that person. They will they won't do it if that person doesn't want to, but they know what the resources here are, and if those folks are having trouble paying for meds or whatever difficulties they're facing, Elder Protective Services can say, okay, there's a program for this, there's a program for that. You need somebody to help you around the house. Here's the program for that. Let's get an application for you. That kind of thing.
That's good to find a problem and then also be able to back it up right away with.
Yeah, because if you determine, this seems like that's really tenuous, that might break down really easily, call in that Elder Protective person and anybody can call Elder Protective Services and say, I need help finding resources. When Elder Protective Services come, it's just a nice person with a clipboard, and they've got a badge, but they're dressed in street clothes, and they will identify themselves, and they will not come in unless you invite them in, and they will leave as soon as you tell them to leave. And so the power is with the elder in that situation.
Awesome.
Where they may not always feel like that with the police. So it's less invasive.
So, thank you for answering all these questions. So that being said, what message do you have for people who don't really know a lot about this issue? If you could give any kind of insight or advice or education other than what you've already provided, what message could you give about elderly abuse?
It's definitely more common than people think, and there's just so much stigma attached because elders really don't want to be treated like children, and they don't want to be treated like people who don't know what they're doing, okay? Anybody can get scammed. There's just a lot of victim blaming with old folks because they're like, you should have known better, that kind of thing. But we're all vulnerable at some point, and trusting people is not a bad thing.
Right.
And so remembering that you wouldn't victim blame a victim of any crime, but we feel comfortable doing that with elders. So you're not going to get anywhere with somebody if you're going to victim blame them. So be open to them and be sympathetic and responsive to what they need, and give them their power back.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to meet me, and it was a pleasure. And all right,
Thanks.
Thank you.